Broadcasting from the ECHS studios, welcome to Charter School Radio with your host, Coach Dennis Snyder.
Welcome. It's great to have you with us here again today on Charter School Radio. Again, this show is all about educational choice. And once again, our famous saying is, what is educational choice? It's the freedom to choose a school that matches your child's needs, not everybody else's. It's the freedom to choose a school based on on your standards, not the government's, and it's the freedom to choose a school based on its quality, not its address. And we believe in school choice, and there's a lot of great things going around throughout the country here on the school choice movement, and being more charter friendly and voucher friendly. There was a great reform just recently in Indiana. In fact, it was a historic voucher initiative there, thanks to Governor Mitch Daniels, and obviously a lot of courageous legislators also that helped get that legislation passed. But it's probably the widest and most comprehensive voucher program in any state in the history, and it's going to set the tone, hopefully, and it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about school choice, the voucher movement, all the way back, I think, since the 50s. And it takes a long time to kind of incrementally get those get on the ground floor and actually see some changes made. It all started with the charter school movement back in 1991 when Minnesota was the first charter school state to have some kind of charter school legislation, followed by California, which was the second in 92. And then since there, now we have 40 states that have some form of charter school movement, plus the District of Columbia. And so, like I said, it's been a long time coming, but we're starting to see a little bit of that big ship being turned around. And again, we're not there yet. There's a long way to go, and there's some challenges ahead because obviously everybody knows that the teachers' unions, not the individual teachers necessarily, but the teachers' unions are very powerful, and they do not like giving up the monopoly they've had over the course of the last 150 years, where they get to dictate where parents send their sons and daughters. And what's great about this particular legislation that I just was reading here a little bit about is the fact that some other things that went along with that is the fact that they've done away with collective bargaining in Indiana, except for it's just limited to wages and to collective wages and benefits, and practices of laying off teachers and stuff like that based on their seniority. That's no longer there, which is a good thing. And then some of the other things that go along with that were that they passed the largest school voucher program. And the neat thing about it is it isn't just limited to, usually most of the voucher programs like in Florida, where they're being considered, it's all about the low-income students. This one actually reaches the middle-class students, and it's not just geared to parents of low-performing students or students with handicaps or free and reduced lunch students. It actually reaches out to any parent that's making, I think I read here, $62,000 per year. It applies to them. It used to be a lot lower for some of the other voucher programs that we're aware of. So this is a good thing. So incrementally, some things are starting to happen, and I applaud Indiana for their historic voucher initiative that they passed in Indiana, and we hope that other states will gradually follow this. It's a long way to go where I'm located here in California, just because of the overall makeup of our state, but that's just the way it goes. But we have made progress here. We have over 800 and some charter schools in the state of California. And so there's a lot to be thankful for. And we just need to make sure that those charter schools that are in business, that they're doing a great job and they're actually educating students and doing the thing that we went in business to do, and that's to improve pupil learning. The other thing that's exciting that's also going on in the charter school movement is that there's more and more organizations out there that are actually geared to financially help charter schools. And again, that hasn't always been the case. The California Charter School Association has some funds available that they help charter schools that they can hook them up with. But there hasn't been a lot of different options out there for charter schools, especially in these challenging times that you're all aware of, that with the state budget cuts, and not just in California, but it's happening in all honesty throughout the United States, as everybody's overspent and they've just been doing business as usual over the years. That's no longer the case in most states, and especially here in California, where we had about a $28 billion budget deficit, and they've come up with a budget. It's got some smoke and mirrors to it, as far as I'm concerned, taking a look at it. And it's all based on certain revenues coming in by December, and if these revenues don't materialize, then there's going to be more mid-year cuts. And as charter schools, we're already receiving approximately 30% less than the regular public schools. We have to pay for our facilities, and again, I'm not complaining, these are the facts. This is just what it is. They have to pay for their facilities out of their average daily attendance dollars, and now the state is also, along with this budget deal, has implemented what we call deferrals. And what that means is, in your budget year that runs July 1st through June 30th, you're not going to be receiving all your money, but yet you are obligated as a school. You've got to pay your employees. You've got to pay your overhead. You've got to pay your rent. You've got to make your bond payments in our situation. So you've got your 100% of your budget already allocated, and you're only going to receive approximately 62.4% or whatever it is this coming year. So obviously, if you haven't set money aside, you've got to come up with a game plan to come up with that money. And two of the gentlemen I have here with me today, live here in the studio, Advanced Placement Capital, we've got John Fox and George Butts, who's the district sales manager. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to get a little bit of their background, how they got involved in that. Then we'll get into the program and kind of let inform you as charter school operators that are listening out there, parents of students in charter schools. The whole purpose again of this show is nationwide, is to inform you and bring on guests that can give you options for some of the challenges that you're facing. And these two gentlemen will do that. So once again, John, welcome to Charter School Radio, and George, welcome to Charter School Radio. Let's start with John. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your title, what your position is with Advanced Placement Capital?
Well, thanks, Coach. I'm Director of Sales for the company. We have offices in San Diego, Orange County. We have a representative in Northern California, office in Chicago, and New York. Right now we're actively working in California. Majority of our work is here. We're looking at 6 other states. We started in March of this year, offering a competitive alternative for financing for the schools.
And then how long have you guys been around as far as the organization Advanced Placement Capital?
Advanced Placement Capital was formed at the beginning of the year.
Oh, so it's a fairly new program.
George and I have both been involved in financing for over 30 years.
Okay. So you know what you're doing as far as when it comes to financing. Yeah. And then the whole theory behind that, before we go any further, why don't we bring in George. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you guys kind of partnered up in Advanced Placement Capital.
I'm George Butts, and I'm the district sales manager here in California. I've been involved in business financing for approximately 30 years. And have grandchildren that attend some charter schools, and have friends and relatives that teach in a variety of charter schools. It's always been of interest to me to follow the educational ideas as they reform portions of the education system. And so this financing opportunity with Advanced Placement Capital arose, and I'm taking advantage of being able to assist a whole variety of schools in handling their deferral issues.
Now, are you dealing with just charter schools or district schools or any school that needs that kind of financial help?
We're primarily charter schools at this time.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And then right now, obviously, as I said in the introduction, a lot of charter schools, if they haven't set money aside, and it's tougher and tougher on them because they're expanding and their income is not stable. It's based on their, how many new kids they have and stuff like that. So I would imagine that there's a lot of charter schools, not only here in the state of California, but throughout the nation, that are kind of going through those tough times right now, making sure they're going to have enough money month by month to meet their obligations. Are you seeing that as kind of happening here in California? Are you seeing that trend a little bit?
We see more deferrals in California than other states. I don't think there's one state out there that has a good budget. And the educational budget's suffering in almost every state.
Yeah. So, like you said, especially here in California, because of the deferral, it's just kind of a budget gimmick where it doesn't affect their overall budget for the state. They can defer it into the next school year, and so they can say they're not expending it here. It makes it look like they're balancing their budgets, where it really puts the pressure on the charter schools.
You'll see a state like Minnesota where they're taking 40% 40% of each month will be deferred out until next year,
Wow, 40%.
up to 40.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's just talk a little bit, then let's just go right into it as far as how does the program work? I mean, what is as far as, I think you also do financing, like if a charter school is trying to build, if they're in a position where they can build, you also do that type of financing? Or is it mainly just short-term financing over the course of that
1 minute.
year?
It's primarily...
We have about a minute left in this segment, but we'll obviously come back.
Sure, it's primarily short-term working capital. We don't do facility financing.
No, facilities financing, okay. Short-term capital, so let's talk a little bit about that. We'll probably just get started, then we'll come back after the break, and then we'll get into a little more details about it. So short-term financing for schools that need that bridge loan from the difference between the money they would expect to get in from the state. You would give them a bridge loan to get them through that month or that 6 months, or is it a year, or can it be from month to month? How do you work that?
Well, the state is the obligation to pay the schools, and we obtain the right to those state payments. So we are actually buying the state receivable. We are not providing a loan. We are